Board meeting? Yeah. Like in there. That's very nice. 4 years old?
Is it the... Okay. No, fourth school year. Yeah, fourth year.
Okay.
My time's gone fast. This is my fifth.
Yeah, I have. He might. He's probably ready for my oldest one. He is a firecracker.
Who does he have?
Yeah, so third grade kindergarten. She, right? Oh yeah. She plays into his antics every day. He'll just yell at he may have been on yellow and orange and red a few times. Yeah. It's like today he's like hiding the seat. Yeah, they kept him at school. He was on double red, and then he pops and goes, "I got an F plus." I was like, "You don't even get grades. What is going on?" So it's like, "I was on green." That's great. She cracks me up. She plays into it and does a great job.
Facilities is my thing.
I forget what it was. Somehow I'm like, I was with my council, and I was like, "Wait, you're on council?" He goes, "Yeah." And then like, what's this? What's this? And she's like, "Hey, you're on the board." I was like, "What is going on?" Yeah, it was just like the connectivity there. Yeah, it was kind of funny. So we missed her for about a week and a half. I think she had basketball. Definitely not an easy job.
Who does your third grader have? His teacher?
This is Hoffman.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think she's new this year, isn't she?
Is the third grade class a bigger class that's coming through? It seems like there's been new teachers every year that class is in, and it's not as big as
No, I don't think it's bigger. The fourth grade class before them, they were a bigger class. So every year we added a teacher as they moved up. But what happened in third grade, there was a teacher there last year. She requested to go to a different building.
Oh, okay.
So that's where Mrs. Hoffman came.
Oh.
So I think it's still four teachers. I think it's still four teachers. It's just
okay.
Because it's Hoffman replaced Gidari, who went to last year.
Okay.
Because other than Kaminsky, Yates, and Wise are the other ones.
Okay.
My daughter had Miss Kaminsky last year.
Wait, you have in third grade too, right?
Fourth grade. Fourth and kindergarten. She is. So Maria had her last year.
Or second grade.
No, she's third.
Yeah, Mrs. K kindergarten. We have Miss Canning now for class year.
Okay. Class dinner, Mrs. Canning.
Okay.
And then Maria had Mrs. Riley for first grade.
You still need time, Scott? A little bit, please. But hurry up.
We got dinner.
That's sad. I can't remember who we had.
So second grade?
Yeah.
So the teachers
first or second?
So the teachers are for second grade. They're Mrs. Wetzel, Mrs. Delaney.
That's Wetzel.
Okay, so that's who Maria had.
Oh, they're in the same class.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh no, Maria's a year older.
Oh, that's right. You're older.
Yeah.
Or second. Yeah, they're the same. Okay. I'll get it right.
He's got two.
I actually having lunch with Nick tomorrow.
Nick.
Hart.
Oh, are you?
Yeah.
Okay.
We were texting about some stuff. We're doing private stuff. I got a couple of days here. We'll grab lunch. So yeah. I was trying to get him down to Bunker Hill to play around with all the simulators. Yeah, but he's like, nah, I don't have that much time.
I forgot that they're there.
So putting is awful. Any simulator.
Right.
Playing it's good. It was fun.
Really? Yeah, to try that.
There was 20 of us that went 2 weekends ago.
Okay.
And we ran the whole place out. We paid $20. Yeah. Well, it's
Awesome.
for that we need to work the whole thing.
Okay.
We would study too. Do certain stuff.
Awesome.
It's that.
Have you done top off yet?
Yeah.
How's that?
It's good. I had that shut out. So quite a few fill up everything from the
Okay.
because people like to do it from the end of the day.
Right. Well, speaking of you, did you see the train the cab's gonna do it? It made no sense.
No.
The buttons are on.
Buttons are on.
Yeah. It made no sense. It was a complete
That's
by
what I thought.
Detroit.
Yeah.
Hello.
Because I was like, I'm reading something. Did I miss something? I didn't have. I was like scrolling and reading or driving at the same time. I was like, something's not adding up here.
Right.
I still think they're trying to get Tristan somehow. But
Do you think they're trying to package it to get a better
something, I don't know.
Tristan and Drummond?
No, I think they're gonna Tristan's contract.
'Cause I think Drummond is. They were saying on the radio he's a free agent at the end of the year. So that's what was confusing. Like why the Cavs made the.
They're not in rebuilding mode, but they are.
Unless they figure they're probably not gonna get the first top seeds and maybe try and draw people in.
I mean,
I don't-
I don't know. I know Kobe, and sometimes I really question some of the judgments. I'm like, what are you doing? But whatever.
Now, what'd you do there? Were you ticket sales or were you?
I was in
marketing?
sales and youth sports.
Okay.
I used to do all the camping clinics and stuff, and
Okay.
also I've done our group sales. So
Okay.
I used to do all that stuff. After 16 years of that, I said,
That's enough.
I'm good. No problem. I can talk loud.
I have 3 teams.
I think it's for.
This room has good acoustics, right?
I don't think it's for the room.
Dan,
It's
can
the
you hear me?
TV. Right.
Dan, blink twice if you can read my mouth. No? Okay.
I think he can hear you, just ignoring.
Probably.
Play food, come back in.
Is the camera on?
There's a red light on.
I know.
Should we wave?
Yeah, for the youth sports stuff, the camps. See what the rec center has too. 'Cause if you're
I
looking
was
for
looking at that. We just wanted I was talking to us about it.
an SSO,
I was afraid. I was
SSO or something.
Okay.
Hopefully I'll see you.
I'm not sure why.
We
haven't done it yet.
really ugly.
Really?
With my kids,
See, at
I remember
3:30 when I heard it was
she's been
dry.
dancing.
So that was good to unload the cars.
My
but
son,
this morning it rained.
now he's getting that age.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
after
I think this year's the
first
last
school.
one.
What was I asked that growing up? Like, you remember when
We had to put one on the
high
school.
schools camp and just kind of know everybody and get to do all that. I was like, one milestone to have that experience. But I
It was
hadn't heard
in
anything.
front
I
of the
was
house
like,
so bad.
okay, maybe I don't do something, and that everything lasts several years. So
It's been hit and miss because there's been turnover in coaching position.
yeah.
So it's been hit and miss. I think he did a camp last year. I don't even know what the age is. I don't know if he was like high school kids or middle school kids or
2 more minutes. 2 more minutes, and then we're starting no matter what. Please.
Thank you. Food was supposed to be here at 6.
Did you ever watch Saturday Night Live? They have that old Will Ferrell, and he had like voice modulation syndrome, and he's like, I cannot control. That's you today, right?
I'm having I'd like to welcome you all.
All 5 of you.
Just ask everybody to move to the front row.
Oh, that would be.
And come on down. So you can hear us.
The only one brave enough.
It's your game tonight?
Yes.
Just right now, we're down with the truck, but not out here. Their choice would be speak
As long
loudly.
as it's recorded,
Recording is fine.
then we're ready to go.
You ready?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
better than the house.
I'd like to call this February 6th, 2020 regular Board of Education meeting to order. Mr. Anagnastu, would you please take the roll?
Mrs. Bissell?
Here.
Mr. Grozan?
Here.
Mr. Miko?
Here.
Mr. Roberts?
Here.
Mrs. Hauser?
Here.
All present.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next on our agenda is district goals. We have 3 goals: student achievement, financial prudence, and community engagement, and all our decisions are based on balancing those 3 goals. Next on our agenda is public comment. I see none. I turn it over to Dr. Ryba for recognition.
Thank you, Mr. Miko. We do have one recognition, and at this time I'd like to ask Jake Altman, as the liaison for the Ohio Auditor of State, to come up to the podium and share recognition for our Treasurer's Department. Jake?
Hi there. I'm honored to be here tonight on behalf of Auditor of State Keith Baber to present the Strongsville City School District with the Auditor of State Award with distinction. It's important to note that of the almost 6,000 entities that we audit across the state, only about 4% of them are eligible for this award, so it's a very big deal, and it speaks to everybody in the district working together, from the board to administration, teachers, everyone who's involved, pulling together for making sure that you have the financial wellness here. It especially speaks to the leadership of Mr. Anagnastu and his team for keeping things moving forward. So again, on behalf of Auditor of State Keith Baber, congratulations.
Speak loudly. Thank you, Jake. First and foremost, I would like to thank the Auditor of State's office for this recognition, as well as their staff for their professionalism and thoroughness when completing our annual audits throughout the years. Although this is the first year that the district received this award with distinction, this is something we strive for on an annual basis. This recognition serves as a barometer that our financial practices rank amongst those that are best in the state. This recognition is not individual recognition, but a total team effort from not only the Treasurer's Department, but to all district personnel. It is a testament to the fact that all proper policies and procedures have been adhered to by everyone throughout the year. To receive this recognition is something we should all be proud of as we continue to strive for the district goal of financial prudence. With me tonight, I have members of the Treasurer's Department. I have Dawn Evangelista, who's the Executive Secretary, Dave Franzak, Coordinator of Payroll and Benefits, Kyle Kiffer, the Assistant Treasurer, and Christy Clifford, Data Input Specialist, Accounts Payable. And missing is Judy Jerkago, Data Input Specialist, Accounts Payable, and Joan Cahuth, Data Input Specialist, Payroll and Inventory. Again, it's a total team effort, and not just to my department, but to the entire district personnel. So this is something that we strive for on an annual basis and hope that we can continue throughout the year. So thanks again. Jake in the Auditor's office.
George, they're walking the wrong way.
Nice to see you.
So on behalf of the board, I do want to compliment George and his team. We appreciate the auditor sending someone all the way from Columbus. We know we appreciate the trip.
I just live in Brunswick.
I was told Columbus. But it's important. Financial prudence is one of our 3 goals, and this is a nice way to represent us in the way we accomplish that goal. Sometimes the accounting can get boring. Sometimes the accounting can get dull. But at the end of the day, it says a lot that the auditor comes in and makes sure that the public knows that it's accurate. And more than anything, I think knowing that it's accurate is very important. So I did want to publicly compliment not only George, but I'm glad he said that it was a team effort. George's leadership, along with Kyle and Dawn and Ruth Ann and Joan and Judy and Christy, very much appreciated. We're proud of you. Congratulations. Thank you very much. And moving on, I turn it over to Dr. Ryba for Superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Micko. And first up, we have Director of Operations Manager Steve Breckman with the Business Services Board for this meeting. Steve?
Good evening, everyone. I have one item on the agenda for tonight. The item is that be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the Strongsville Board of Education approves participation in the Ohio Schools Council School Bus Cooperative Bidding and Purchasing Program and authorizes the Ohio School Council to advertise and accept bids on said board's behalf per the specifications submitted for the cooperative purchase of 3 72-passenger conventional school bus chassis and bodies.
So moved.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Yes, sir.
Second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Grozan, second by Mrs. Hausum. Any discussion?
I truly believe that a 72-passenger bus will limit the amount of buses running around. So I completely agree with Steve.
No. Steve, how many do we have in the total fleet?
80 as of right now.
And what is
That
our...
includes spares as well.
Right. And just for the public's knowledge, how often do we try to replace them?
Right now, I just talked to Steve Vachon. We're getting between 15 and 18 years of worth out of them. And these 3 would replace. We have some that have been being held together with, their hard work, skill, and bubble gum in some cases.
But it's safe bubble gum.
Yeah, they've been doing what they can. The bodies start to rot out, so we just decided, as a department, we would keep purchasing buses. Whether we used to buy 5 at a clip, but we feel with situations being what they are now, some of the decreased enrollment, also purchasing buses that are larger than before. We did have 65-passenger buses, and 3 years ago we started purchasing 72-passenger. That 3 is the number that we need that would offset the amount that are not going to pass inspection, and yet keep us viable with spares in the upcoming year.
Any other questions? George?
Mr. Grozan?
Yes.
Mrs. Hausum?
Yes.
Mrs. Bissell?
Yes.
Mr. Micko?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Next up with Human Resources is our Assistant Superintendent, Jennifer.
I have the following items for your consideration this evening under Human Resources. Under B1, the resignation of an administrative staff. Under B2, appointment for a certificated staff member. And finally, under B3, an appointment for a non-certificated supplemental contract paid upon completion. That concludes my report.
And that concludes the Superintendent's report, Mr. Micko.
Thank you, Dr. Ryba. So the resignation is Joe Mueller, our current high school principal. We want to thank him for all the work he's done for this year. Obviously, with him being here for a year, it was an interim position, and we're looking forward to selecting a new principal, and I know we have a process in place that will involve the community, involve the high school, involve all the different stakeholders, but we do want to publicly thank Mr. Mueller. He's done a great job for us, and we'll look forward to wishing him well at our May meeting. And then for all the soccer fans out there, we will welcome Kyle Veras as our new head boys soccer coach, and we look forward to great things on the soccer field. Next on our agenda is the consent calendar. Action by the Board of Education and adoption of the consent calendar at this point of the agenda means that all items appearing on this agenda with asterisks are adopted by one single motion unless a member of the board or superintendent requests that such items be removed from the consent calendar. Is there anything to be removed? Hearing none, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Hausum, second by Mr. Grozan. Any discussion? George, would you take the roll?
Mrs. Hausum,
Yes.
Mr. Grozan,
Yes.
Mr. Miko,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Mrs. Bissell.
Yes.
Motion passes. Next on our agenda is third reading of board policies along with adoption. The policies are listed in our agenda. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Hausum, second by Mr. Grozan. Any discussion? For the public's knowledge, the majority of all of these policies are routine. They update our policies to make sure that we stay compliant with state and federal law. Two of the policies that I will quickly highlight. One is policy 5460, which is graduation requirements. The board has adjusted those to allow for physical education credit to be earned by show choir or any other kind of choir that has a sufficient activity in lieu of the physical education. It doesn't get you out of physical education. It recognizes that you're already doing quite a few things for that gym credit, so to speak, and so it allows you to have more time at the high school. And so this is similar to any of our other sports, and it recognizes that dance team and show choir and things like that should have the same attitude. And the guidance office will have the rules to make sure that any students are doing what needs to be done to get that physical education waiver. I advocated for chess team, but it just didn't make the cut. Any other discussion?
I like the idea of the use of tobacco and use of tobacco on school premises. That is a very big concern for the entire district.
Thank you, George. I will, to clarify, you don't like the use of tobacco. You like the fact that we updated our policies to include vaping and Juul and any of those kinds of devices. Those are also against our policy, and we will remain a smoke-free school district. There is no other discussion, Mr. Grozan, or Mr. Anagnostou.
Mrs. Hausum,
Yes.
Mr. Grozan,
Yes.
Mr. Miko,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Mrs. Bissell.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Board of Education Other. Do I have any Board of Education Other?
Night of the races, February 22nd.
February 22nd. Tickets are on sale now. You can go to the Boosters website and purchase them there. $45 a piece, or you can get a table for $320, and the table seats 8.
Perfect. Thank you.
And the other I wanted to bring up is we did discuss some changes to our board committee or board liaisons now that we have a full team on the board with Mr. Roberts. For everyone's consideration, I'd like to have the Finance Committee consider Seth Roberts and Laura Hausum. I'd like the Policy Committee to be considered Richard Miko and Michelle Bissell. Facilities will be George Grozan and Michelle Bissell, and Business Advisory Council will be George Grozan and Laura Hausum. Any other others? Hearing none, we do have reason for executive session on the topic of?
To consider the compensation of public employees, their officials.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion by George, second by Laura. Any discussion? George, can you take the roll?
Mr. Grozan?
Yes.
Mrs. Hausen?
Yes.
Mrs. Bissell?
Yes.
Mr. Miko?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Enter an executive session at 6:26.
6:26, we will enter an executive session. We have no any other business afterwards. I will announce that tonight is our PTA Founders Day dinner and meeting, and we look forward to participating in that and hearing all about all the great things that the different PTA volunteers do for our district. Thank you very much and have a nice evening.